Okay, hit the okay for recording in progress. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 11:34. So normally we try to get started right at 11:35, but we are just a little bit early in announcing. And so I welcome everyone. Today is Friday the 13th. Oh my goodness. We're going to let it be a great day instead of it being like back in the day when it used to be a terrifying day. Friday the 13th, bad luck and all that stuff. We're declaring it to be a great day because it is the day of the Charitable Roundtable. And I always love when we come together to be able to have a discussion about things that are relevant to the nonprofit space. As always, we have people here that work for nonprofits, that are founders of nonprofits, that are volunteers of nonprofits, that are thinking about nonprofits, that offer a service to nonprofits. There's something that they have some connection to the nonprofit space. And so since there's just a few of us on here, I'm going to call on you and I'm going to ask you to share your name and your nonprofit. And then we'll go from there. So the first person I'm going to chime in on is Deborah. And after Deborah will be Paul and then Genevieve.
Well, I'm Deb Laurel from Laurel and Associates, and I provide management training and board development.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Paul.
Now.
Hey, there you are.
Geez. Okay. I'm Paul Hedderstrom, and I really want to focus on fundraising to reduce and ultimately really eliminate competition for funding and make it more collaborative so that we could all get together, our nonprofits together in a team effort and be able to multiply our impact onto the community.
Thank you and welcome, Paul. Go ahead, Genevieve.
Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Pituro. I am the founder of a national nonprofit called Pajama Program, now in its 25th year with 40 chapters around the U.S., doing great. And 4 years ago, I passed the baton of ED, and now I speak and write about leading with love for leaders today.
I love that. You are my shero.
I just got featured in an article that came out by HR today, so I'm so excited about that. So I'm sharing.
Okay, so you got to share the link for that. You have to. And so I did see that Tammy shared a message that she's not going to be able to stay with us, but gratefully this is being recorded so that Tammy can chime back in. And then we have Susan. Hey, Susan. Sorry. So if you share your name and your information about your being here.
Well, yeah, I'm Susan, and I recently sold my company, and I'm here to learn for my next chapter.
Your next chapter. Do you have any idea what your next chapter is going to be?
Yeah, we're going to provide veterinary care to low-income senior citizens who have a companion pet in need.
And that's going to be a nonprofit. And so
yes.
I'm excited about when that unfolds because there definitely is a need. Of course, we have Frank is on here with us. Let me make sure I got everybody. Crystal, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. Hey, I'm Crystal Johnson. I'm a friend of nonprofits. So it's just a pleasure to get on and learn and find ways that I can support the incredible work that you all do because of your heartstrings.
Thank you. And then perfect timing, Alan. You're currently on mute, but if you would share your name and your nonprofit, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. I do have a little bit more to share before I introduce to some and present to others our speaker for today. So go ahead, Alan.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, everywhere maybe. My name is Alan Holmes. I'm a master connector. I don't have a nonprofit, but I'm the guest of the roundtable. I've been invited by Kurt Roscoff, and I've known about Mary Jenkins and Crystal Johnson and the rest of you beautiful people. Thank you for allowing me to be of service. U.S. Army 13 Bravo veteran. So eradicating poverty, ending mental health stigma, and educating on financial literacy, what is what I love doing. Thank you so much. Happy
Thank
Friday.
you. Thank you, Auntie. Kurt, I didn't mention you before because you were frozen, but now you're alive and you're moving. So, Kurt, if you would introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm an ambassador of Project Die combating veteran suicide by spreading hope to veterans. And I also offer for everybody here to come on our podcast shows, feature who you are and what you do. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kurt. So that is awesome in itself. So before I introduce our speaker for today, I do want to intentionally acknowledge the fact that we have Frank Agan, who is the visionary behind the Charitable Roundtable. He's currently taking a call, which he shared. But he is with us and he'll be tuning back in shortly. And I also want to share that Crystal, Genevieve, Kurt, and myself, we currently come together to create the topics, but we're always looking for somebody new. And so it has been shared with us that some people are interested in being part of that. And so I at least want to highlight them because they do a wonderful job of us coming together and creating topics where we can provide support services to nonprofits. Again, before I introduce our speaker, my name is Mary Jenkins, and I am the founder of the Cancer Option Collaborative, a nonprofit that brings together resources to help active treatment cancer patients. We have been in existence almost 20 years. Next year will be 20 years for us. We provided services in all 50 states and have contacts with organizations internationally. So the person that I had the pleasure of introducing for today's topic is someone who is near and dear to my heart. I believe everyone should have him in their pocket because he has a wealth of information, especially for those that are in the nonprofit space. He brings 100 million years of experience in the nonprofit space. Just kidding. He is truly, truly, truly a gem to have. If you have questions about starting a nonprofit, growing your nonprofit, advancing, just want to have a conversation, he is someone to have that conversation with. And so if you would please join me in welcoming none other than Mr. Dean Pulliam. If you don't know who he is, get to know him. If you do know who he is and haven't caught up with him in a while, please do. And he's going to continue our 3-part series on board development stuff. And so all things board. And so I'm excited about what he has to share today. And I only have one question for you, Dean, before you get started. Do you need to share your screen?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. And so let me see. You have the rights to, you can share. Now it's on you.
Okay, can everybody see my screen? Let's see. From the current slide. There we go. Before I forget, in the introductions, was it Kurt? I'd like to link you wherever you're at with a nonprofit organization that I'm working with here in Central Ohio called Veteran Companion Animal Services. It links rescue dogs with veterans who need a companion dog, not a service dog, but a companion dog. And they're looking for collaborators and partner organizations. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, advertisement over. And I'm ready to begin part 3 of this 3-part series. And then I can take a breather for a year and go back to listening to the speakers, the great speakers who come to the nonprofit collaborative. I'm just trying to fill some pretty big shoes here and share information about governing boards. As you will recall, if you've been joining in for the last 3 months, we've been talking about all things governing board related. And the focus today is going to be on teamwork and dealing with the issues that you get challenged by, either as a board member or as the ED of a nonprofit organization. So we're going to be talking about those challenges that you have to face. But leading a nonprofit is definitely a team sport. It's not something that you can do alone. And the ED and the board need to be working together as a team in order to make success real. As the old saying goes, teamwork makes the dream work. And if you don't have a team aspect and a team perspective, you're going to be challenged. But wait, there is breaking news in Minnesota over the past week regarding a nonprofit called Give Hope. And the Attorney General in the state of Minnesota has uh, leveled allegations against this charity and its co-founders, a husband and wife partnership that created a nonprofit called Give Hope that is connected to and linked with their for-profit business enterprise, which is to operate for-profit breakfast bars and restaurants. And over the course of the investigation, the AG has alleged that this organization was involved in transactions that conflicted with their for-profit, conflicted between the for-profit enterprises and the nonprofit charity, and the charitable dollars that were raised on behalf of Give Hope. And the allegations over in the right-hand column, you can see that the allegations include very specific charges that the board met infrequently. It did not even have a treasurer, did not maintain financial records, policies, and procedures, and didn't follow the legal requirements for maintaining tax exempt status or registry with the Minnesota Attorney General's office. No matter where you're located in the country, every state has a set of regulations that nonprofits within that jurisdiction must comply. And that generally requires that the nonprofit provide a finance or an updated accounting report at the end of each fiscal year to either the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, or a comparable state level body that's charged with monitoring nonprofit enterprises. This is particularly recent. You'll notice that this article was posted on May 28th. And there is an electronic link on the last screen of my PowerPoint this morning that once you get a copy of these slides, you'll be able to make a direct connection to the full article. But I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention that no matter how hard you try, you have to have a team effort, and you also have to have responsible members of your governing board that will keep you in compliance. That's the big C word for every governing board is compliance. So what are the standards that governing boards are held responsible for? Well, this is something that we've looked at before, and I just wanted to briefly pop it up on the screen today to give everybody a chance to be refreshed. That generally speaking, except for the state of Ohio, there are three fiduciary duties, the duty of care, loyalty, and compliance. In Ohio, since we're so special, we have a fourth fiduciary duty, and that's called the duty to manage accounts, which generally speaking is rolled into the primary three, but here in Ohio, it is specifically and uniquely identified as its own separate fiduciary duty. So the duty of care is primarily to pay attention to the organization's activities and operations. And obviously that didn't happen in Minnesota. The duty of loyalty is to put the interests of the organization before personal and professional interests. And there again, that particular duty, when you have an opportunity to read all the wherefore and therefores in the article itself, you'll begin to see that the board did not show loyalty to the charity in that organization in Minnesota. And the third, the duty of compliance or obedience, is that the board is charged with applicable federal, state, and local laws and the responsibility to adhere to those rules, laws, regulations, and to their own operating bylaws, which is why, in my opinion, bylaws set the tone and the baseline for the entire operation of the organization, beginning with the board and working its way throughout operations and direct care staff. So these are critical elements that the board needs to take responsibility for. It is their set of legal accountabilities, and something that we spend a great deal of time talking about in April. Then in May, we talked a great deal about culture and board duties and responsibilities. And this particular slide highlights what Board Source identifies as the primary roles of the governing board, and it encompasses the 10 specific responsibilities that every board is charged with. And the overarching roles include first, the setting direction and strategy, which is made up of mission, purpose, and the actions by board members to serve as advocates or ambassadors to the public. The second role is to ensure that resources are adequate, which not only talks about finances, but also talks about responsibilities for management and oversight of internal operations and authorities that operate on behalf of the board. And the third general role is to provide oversight, which is to actually evaluate the chief executive. And in many cases, boards are encouraged, and I encourage all the organizations that I work with, the board needs to conduct an annual overview and assessment of its own activities and its own outcomes, no less often than at the end of every year. We also talked about last month board culture. And this is Peter Drucker, who is the father of modern management theory, and his age-old quote that permeates nonprofit board meetings frequently is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that's usually a quote that gets shared when boards are busy talking about their strategic plan. But it also affects daily operations throughout the year when direct care staff aren't committed or bought in to the strategic plan. The culture of the organization can go awry. And it's my opinion and experience that culture begins at the top and filters its way down. And what that implies is that the relationship among and between board members and between the board and the chief executive officer is the most critical of the relationships that get carried on within and as it operates its programs externally as a part of the mission outreach. Pardon me. Does anybody follow the television program, um, The Curse of Oak Island? I'm intrigued by the process of trying to find that buried treasure from 250 years ago. But this set of brothers continues to drill holes and dig for buried treasure on an island just outside the borders of Newfoundland, in the North Atlantic. And one of the caissons that they sunk, thinking that they're going to find the treasure, was called TOT, the one thing. And they didn't find the treasure, by the way. But the one thing that gets identified most frequently about success is the relationship between the board chairperson and the executive director, and the partnership that they need to build between themselves as a model for the board and as an influence on the culture of the organization to filter down throughout the structure of the staff and the program. The leading advocate for that kind of perspective is Joan Gary, who is CEO, founder and CEO of the Leadership Lab. And her byline is that nonprofits are messy. You see her here sitting on top of the trash can. I don't know if you can read what's printed on the can, but it says, "Your mess here." Joan Joan presents and supports the primary idea that the board chairperson and the executive director need to be in sync with one another, and together collectively they need to be in sync with the strategic plan, the mission, the vision, and the values of the organization, and to represent that not only externally, but most importantly, internally to the board, to begin building the team that's necessary for the organization to succeed. That relationship has to be built on trust and mutual respect. And she describes it almost like being a strong marriage. And the importance of this relationship can't be underscored more, most particularly during times of growth, transition, and crisis. Just like good marriages get tested during those times, the really good ones stick together and rely on one another to move the relationship forward. And board chairs and executive directors are exactly the same. You need to rely on one another with your backs to each other, um, ready to take on the world if necessary, that through your partnership, the organization can move successfully forward. She often talks in metaphors, and her most favorite metaphor is the description of a pilot and co-pilot flying a twin-engine plane, and that neither one of them can operate the plane alone without the support and the goodwill, the trust, and the communication with the other. And that really describes what needs to occur in an organization to be successful, and for the board to assume its roles and relationships in a successful manner, modeled by the board chairperson and the executive director. Now, if you Google anything about failed, faltering, troubled, or bad nonprofit governing boards, you're going to get about 30,000 hits right away. And those articles are going to identify anywhere from 2 to 10 as the specific number of reasons why nonprofit boards fail or flounder. And when I was trying to come up with a reasonable number to share with this group today that we could use as talking points, if you will, um, I settled on 5 as being kind of the middle number. So there are some speakers and presenters who identified as few as 2 issues that cause nonprofits to fail or flounder. Dennis Miller is a renowned speaker and nonprofit expert who I follow. He has good information, and most times we agree. Although he and I have issues, we've never even met. We don't talk to each other, but there are some things that I don't particularly agree fully that Dennis puts a lot of stock in. Other things that we totally agree with. But I found his 5 issues as being rather general and reflective of even the list that included 10. The 10 could, several of the 10 rosters could be boiled down to these 5 areas. So Dennis's article, which is also electronically attached to the resources screen on this deck of slides, so that you can access this particular article, identifies these 5 areas of causation and concern with regard to failed organizations. And the first one is lack of competent leadership, which includes not only board leadership, but the executive director leader as well. There are lots of factors that play into that. Sometimes it's founder syndrome and the lack of the executive director, whether they're the founder or a hired in executive, not buying into the strategic plan and staying close to the planned actions and goals set by the board. Second, Dennis identifies the stale or uninspiring vision statement, which involves the lack of staying relevant and current with changing times. And Mary mentioned that in her opening comments about how times are changing so quickly right now, and our environment is so different than it was even 6 months ago as nonprofit organizations. The third factor is that boards aren't trained or engaged properly. And this becomes a major issue for leadership and management and that team between the executive director and the board chairperson to focus on what needs to be done and what training and engagement needs to occur. That kind of plan is hatched between those 2 parties as they do strategic thinking to bring to the attention of the board, and in particular, the planning committee or the executive committee, or in new terminology and new structure models, the governance committee of a board. The fourth is the indistinguishable brand identity. 10 years ago, nonprofits never even mentioned the word brand. It wasn't a part of the nonprofit vocabulary. Today, it's on everybody's high priority list to worry about what does our brand look like? What does our brand sound like? Who are we reaching with our brand message? And how can we connect our brand message with the population who are the most capable and inspired to support us philanthropically? Can we reach the right generation group with the right brand message on the right media channel to link to the donors who are going to make a difference for our organization? And last but certainly not least is inadequate revenue sources. And even if your charity was flush with cash and charitable gifts 2 years ago, you may be on the verge of going bankrupt these days because the change in donor style and donor giving has flipped And again, as Mary mentioned earlier, there's a big transition that's taking place right now in who has access to wealth, how they contribute philanthropically the wealth that they have access to, and the kinds of decisions that they're making for the transition of that wealth to the next generation of donors and givers. So when I was, again, when I was trying to figure out an engaging way to address this topic in a third month in a row, I'm looking for feedback and comments from people about, hey, here's the problem I had, or here's the problem hypothetically. We don't want anybody to reveal or share confidential information or concerning info about their particular organization. So everybody should speak about the hypothetical that they're conjuring in their mind and sharing with the group today. Whatever's said at the charitable roundtable stays at the charitable roundtable, except that which we're recording, of course. Um, so don't use names and places necessarily as I try to encourage you to become conversant and share with one another your reactions to Dennis's 5 points, as well as the information that is shared a couple of slides from now. Well, excuse me, on this slide, beginning to be shared on this slide, that was generated from a question that I posed to artificial intelligence. AI came up with a list of 10 items that are most frequently cited as reasons that nonprofit boards fail. And that's kind of the general gist of the paragraph long question that I posed to AI that generated this list. And again, at the end of each of these items that are prioritized in the most frequently contributed concern to the least noted concern, 1 through 10. So what you see as item number 1, the lack of clarity in roles and micromanagement, is definitely a board issue. And the concern, as you identify here on the screen, is attributed to the 2 links that are posted at the end of that particular item. So these 10 items represent news articles that were published between 2022 and 2025 in 30 different locations or resources that include both the US and, you'll note, 1 UK resource from the United Kingdom. So we'll quickly go through these, and then there's a summary screen. And then I'd like to open it up for conversation to really benefit from the value that people should be getting, at least I hope so, that people should be getting and can be sharing with one another through the charitable roundtable. And that's to share with one another instead of me doing a lot more talking, and allow conversation to occur among the group. So number 1 is the lack of clarity in roles and micromanagement. My question to the group is, does that happen at your organization? Number 2 is poor board engagement and disengaged members. I know that never happens at any charitable board, and you never have to worry about asking somebody to step off the board because they've missed 7 of the last 8 meetings over the last 3 years, and still want to be a part of the board, but have no clue what's going on anywhere. Number 3, a weak understanding of their fiduciary, legal, and compliance duties. goes right back to the last screen that we were looking at about the fiduciary duties that are charged to everybody, and is also a stark reminder about what happened in Minnesota 2 weeks ago. Number 4, lack of board diversity and fresh perspectives. Um, that's called a homogeneous board in the summary screen that we're going to look at. And that's always a problem that I find most frequently in small and young organizations because they're relying on the FRAN as a member of their board. That's FRAN, friends, relatives, and neighbors. And that's a bad choice for board members. And it shows up as most concerning item number 4 on this top 10 list. Number 5, dysfunctional board dynamics. This is the reference to a UK resource, but it shows up as number 5 on the list of top 10. The lack of strategic planning and mission drift, which again seems to impact smaller and younger organizations because that type of organization is still emotionally moving forward with their heartfelt desires as opposed to a strategic approach to determining what's needed and how they should get there. Number 7 is insufficient board succession and turnover. I see this frequently in the organizations that I work with is board chair people who are proud to announce that they've been a board chairperson for 22 years and they have no clue what's really going on in the real world or the impact or lack of impact that their organization is experiencing with their mission outcomes. Simply because they're more focused on longevity than they are relevance. Number 8, decisions driven by emotion and not data. Again, affecting a lot of young and newer organizations because founders and boards that are formed by friends, relatives, and neighbors, acquaintances and neighbors, have a tendency to be focused on cheerleading for the founder as opposed to determining what is a strategic outcome that we should be shooting for. Number 9, poor financial stewardship. And again, that's highlighted by the news article from Minnesota for 2 weeks ago. The fact that boards, generally speaking, boards don't know how to read and understand what their financial condition is, or to be able to speculate or project what their financial needs are going to be and how to accomplish that, which leads right into item number 10, which is poor financial stewardship. The ability to appropriately manage the charitable revenue that they generate and to account for it in a way that reflects transparency and trustworthiness. So those 10 items are summarized here. And they provide for you a one-screen summary of the 10 items that we just looked at on the previous 2 screens and key issues that cause those particular concerns to raise their ugly heads and impact the organization. So, all of this being said, what are your thoughts about the AI generated list? And this is the next to last slide in my deck. And I'll make this all available to everybody or anyone who lets me know they want a copy of the slides. But at the very bottom is the reference to the AI information. And if you look at the very bottom 2 lines in italics, you'll see the notation that AI offered me back after I asked it a second set of questions to generate the summary list. Excuse me, to generate the summary list and to define what each of those categories meant. And AI offered back that it could dive even deeper for me if I wanted to know specific areas of deeper definition or to provide solutions to the areas that were addressed as failing points, which I thought was really interesting that AI was willing to offer additional info to me about what I could do to address these problems that I had asked it to identify. So at this point, Mary, I'd like to open the microphone, if you will, to anybody who'd like to ask a question, pose a thought, offer a challenge, or share feedback about these 10 items and the responsibilities that boards have and that CEOs are charged with to make sense out of these issues and to turn them around from problems into opportunities to move forward.
Wonderful. Thank you for opening up for our conversation. Just let everyone know, please use your digital hand if you have something that you want to share. And we'll go from there because I know there's a whole lot that we can say. So the first person I see is Robert Paul. So go ahead and you can share.
Hi, everybody. I'm visiting the group today. I can give an interesting perspective because I don't work for a nonprofit, but I am on several nonprofit boards. I think in terms of disengaged boards, I think a lot of it has to do with folks that are on the board that have honored their get give and figure, well, I've done that, so I don't really need to show up at meetings. I think that's part of the problem. I think there's members of the board that take things more seriously and know it's more than just a get give. It's about participation and helping. I also wanted to say something else which has flown out of my mind already. So I'm not going to be able to come up with it, unfortunately. But I serve on I do remember now. I serve on a very large organizations board. I'm sure you've heard of the nonprofit. And I think that sometimes the regional or home office doesn't understand the idiosyncrasies of the particular area that the community board is serving. And that community board's area may be completely different than where the nonprofit is based and making the decisions. That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I will say I have a thought on that. I remember when I started COC 20 years ago. Prior to starting it, I had a conversation with Lance Armstrong and his accountant. This was before the fall of Livestrong or the struggle that Livestrong dealt with. And it was about how was I going to actually launch the organization? Was I going to do individual chapters or was I going to do one location and then we provide services nationally? And the concern that I had was what you're talking about, being, do we create these individual chapters? We say we have one mission, but there's a different need in other areas, and then we don't know the need and can't support them effectively. And so rather than go the route of the individuals, we created having COC be based out of Columbus, Ohio, and then we provide services nationally. And so being that what you said is definitely a challenge when it comes to boards, because you can actually have a board headquartered in one place and you provide services in another and it not meet the needs of the community, which could be frustrating to the people that want to be involved. That's just my 2 cents. Dean, you guys, go ahead.
Me?
Yes.
I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And I asked Dean, did he have anything he wanted to share in relation to that?
Well,
before going on to Genevieve.
I think boards have to be careful when they grow to scale. For for that very reason that culture is relevant to location. If I live in Ohio, if I go to Georgia, it's very easy and quick to realize that the culture in Georgia is very different from the culture in Ohio, and that I have to alter my approach to how I engage with that culture. The same is true with nonprofit organizations. They have to realize as they grow to scale that there may be limiting or challenging factors in other locations that are related to culture and general practices within the community that don't match the mission delivery style of that particular charity. And you have to be aware of that. That's part of your duty of care as a member of the board of trustees or the board of directors. So you have to understand those things or be aware of those things, or else you're doing a disservice to your charity. And that becomes a primary responsibility of members of governing boards. Going back to your first example or your first comment, Robert, that some members of particularly large boards or mature boards and organizations that have been around forever and aren't challenged by the day-to-day concerns of cash flow and financial stewardship down the road. The give and get focus, and then I won't bother coming to board meetings, challenges that very issue of duty of care and begins to put the board and its individual members at risk for anything that does go wrong or any challenge that does pop up. And that's something that board members need to be aware of, no matter what size their charity is or how well heeled their organization is financially.
Agreed.
Genevieve?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Dean, for the 3 months of overviews. It's been great. I want to contribute. As a founder, I understand that we founders start something because we see something we want to change for the better. And I understand well the passion and determination and heart and moxie that leads us. Understanding also the responsibility, which is great, and wanting to do a good job, I will share what I always strongly suggest to my clients and when I speak and when I write about being the founder and leading an organization for 25 plus years. And that is, you need 3 people. I'm sorry, Megan, she has heard me say this a million times. Any other of my clients aren't on here. You need 3 people when you are thinking and starting a nonprofit. You need an attorney in your state that has a hefty group of nonprofits that they are dealing with, working with. You need a CPA in your state that has a healthy roster of nonprofits that they are leading. And you need a mentor who has been there and done that personally, so they understand both your passion and the responsibility you are learning as you go. Those 3 people, part B, is to choose and work with them with your eye on bringing them onto your board. Because in that way, you take off that burden of every board meeting worrying if there's anything that has to be checked, because you have sitting there dedicated professionals to take care of the financial piece, the governing piece, the legal piece, and the mentor can help in lots of ways. Because as founders, this is a lot to do alone and near impossible to do well. So I suggest that will help to really focus on those people at the beginning and to find those attorneys, mentors, and CPAs who already have a love or an affinity for those you are serving, because they will more naturally be inclined to say yes when you ask them to be on your board after your initial working with them. And if you have to pay them, it's well worth it. But of course, try to get them to do it out of the goodness of their heart for free. Secondly, something that helps boards work well together is when you have seasoned board members on your board. Looking for them helps tremendously. And there are so many resources, including, and I just quickly by memory, there's Board Source, there's Encore, there's National Council of Nonprofits, there's Board Assist, there's Board Match. They all have people who have been on boards and want to be on boards, and they have people who've never been on boards who want to be on boards, but you can clearly read everyone's bio and what they're interested in. And we had plenty of interest and plenty of people to choose from, and you will too, any of you nonprofit founders out there. When they're on your board, it's easier for them to help you by leading others to what is expected, including the give or get, including the oversight, including everything. And it takes that burden again off you so that you can do what you do best and bring the heart and the work and bring people together because of the vision. So that's my advice to anyone who is a founder struggling with any of these legal, financial, and fiduciary responsibilities, because I know it's a lot. So thank you.
Thank you, Genevieve. Just to add, as a founder, between you and I, we've got, so many years of experience. And I can recall when I started the organization, not having an attorney, not having a CPA, I didn't even have a mentor because I didn't even know anyone that started a nonprofit before. I had no clue. All I knew was that people were battling cancer and they needed help paying their bills. And I couldn't understand why there was millions of dollars being raised for cancer research, but there wasn't money going to actually help people that had cancer. And so that didn't make sense to me. And as I just started talking. So my thing was talking. And as I spoke more, people showed up. The attorney that showed up and said, I think what you're doing is great. I'm not wanting to be on your board, but you need to be a 501c3. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. And so this particular attorney was like, do the paperwork, print it out, I'll overlook it. Make sure you're not missing anything before you send it in. They never, and we're friends to this day, but they never served on the board, but they were instrumental in the very, very beginning. Same thing with the person that helped me set up the account because I didn't know. I was like, you just go to the bank. You go to a bank that's not a bank that you banked with. So that way no one can ever say you're like illegally transferring money, stuff. But having these people, what you said, Genevieve, is so important. Having them and having a mentor, I didn't have it, but it's only by grace of God that, we've been around for this long and being able to have the right people to come and connecting with other people. And so I'm big on networking and, to have what it is that you need for where it is that you want to go. And so when I look at the 10 as a founder, I get it. And as a founder, the number one thing, Dean, this you can clap if you want to, is founder syndrome. That is so real, and you don't see it until you see it. And that was something I dealt with, and to where getting on the other side, it's like, oh my God, that was me. So there's so much, but I want to say thank you, Genevieve, for sharing that, and thank you for this list. And I need you to send me what you said to AI so that I can see what it comes up with or something similar. Because I'm interested in knowing this as well, because there are a lot of people that have amazing work and that they're starting and they're young, they're baby nonprofits, and we want to give them a helping hand so that they are strong when they start out and they don't have to unnecessarily not make it. Because they say, nonprofit work, if it makes it 5 years, it can make it forever. But there are ones that aren't even making it 5 years. So that's my spiel.
Well, kudos to you, Genevieve, because you are avoiding the founder syndrome aspect of impact for your organization as you transitioned out of the CEO or executive director role and became a speaker and an advocate for your organization instead of uh, instead of remaining focused on internal operations and the constant overwhelm that that creates for the founder. And I agree with what you have proposed, the resources and the talents and skills that are needed on a governing board. Diversity is important, and it's not just about skin color or age. It has to do with the professional skills, the insights, the real lived experiences of individuals who come to the board as representatives of those who are receiving services is also a key element to strong nonprofit organizations moving forward.
There was one question in the chat, Dean. Susan asked, what AI program did you use?
I'm down and dirty with the baseline. So, it's an old dog learning new tricks here. So, Chat GBT, the free version, what was available to me through my online experiences.
All right. And so I'd like to make a recommendation for any others that want to follow Dean's prompt and get some information from AI about some of these key things. A good tool for research is called perplexity.ai. And I can put that in the chat. The reason that I recommend that tool is it does provide the sources that it's pulling the information from. There is a free version and there is also a paid version. With any tool, if it does not, so if you use ChatGPT, ask it to give you the sources or either provide the rationale that it used to come up with those answers. And that is another good way to check it, because AI really is a people pleaser and it wants to answer whatever questions that you give it. And so sometimes it's a little harder to track down where the sources is that it's pulling from. So again, a couple ways to do that. If you're using ChatGPT, ask it to cite its sources or to provide the rationale. Or you can use Perplexity and it will automatically provide that for you.
Oh, thanks for that, Crystal. I did not ask about rationale, but I did ask for sources. And so you'll see on the previous two screens above the summary chart that at the end of each of the identified numbered items, there is a reference to uh, the site that it chose the information from. I'm learning. I'm old and slow, but that doesn't mean I'm not trainable.
Absolutely better off paying the $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus. You'll never get what ChatGPT does without paying the $20 a month. You're not getting the full of what it really can do. It's amazing what it can do if you pay the $20. It takes it to a level that it's just a huge difference. It's not even close. The extra $20 a month makes a massive difference. You can do all kinds of things, create flyers, create brochures, create everything at what would cost you in print shops hundreds of dollars. You can do for free just with using ChatGPT Plus.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm looking forward to Crystal's presentation next month.
That was
Spend the
a great
Spend
segue.
$20. Spend the $20. I promise.
Great segue into, I mean, we can have a whole conversation about AI. So I guess I'll put the plug in now to say next month we're going to be having in August we're having our very own Crystal Johnson do a whole talk about AI. That's going to be something. So if you know people that want to learn about it, definitely plan to be with us in August. We have something else scheduled for July. But it's gonna, we are doing our part to make sure that the information that charities are receiving is relevant to the space that we're in now. Like I said, there's so much going on right now that nonprofits have to be mindful. Nonprofits need to have support services. Nonprofits need to make sure they connect and align with someone that's been there and done that. And so, when Genevieve came to the table, I was so excited because she is a founder that's done it for 20 years, and that, her level of success is so amazing. And I'm like, it's good to see another founder that has obtained such success. So that way I'm like, man, I can see that there is a possibility for us, even though I've been doing this for 20 years, there's so much to learn, and having the people. And so all I know is that this is the perfect space for people to come. So if you are here, please invite someone else to join you next month and in August, because our topics are relevant. So does anyone else have anything that they want to share about the information that Dean has up? I see your hand, Kurt. Go ahead.
Okay. So I want to propose that there's a quiet revolution going on that points to the greater issue behind everything that Dean proposed. If we really think and reflect upon the time of COVID and where we are today because of the public health crisis, the pandemic, and having people stay safer at home, and people were able to reflect upon what their life meant, being alive, what they want to do in their own personal space more than in non-pandemic time. To me, in nonprofit leadership, in working together as volunteers, let's take a look at where the 501c3 tax code came from. It came from constituents, voters, taxpayers going to government and saying, there are all these unmet needs. The government's not doing enough. So the creativity, the imagination came, let's open it up to give a tax credit. Let's empower the taxpayers to go out and do what the government is not doing. And along the same line of genius, cooperatives were created. So when we look at lack of engagement and, not complying and all this stuff, to me, we're losing touch with the real function. There's been 175 billion people on this planet. I just reflect upon how huge of a miss the way we operate works and what's happening at the individual level today. Now more than ever before, as we are evolving as humankind, is coaches, advisors, consultants, talking to an individual are really helping individuals break from culture, custom, genetic memory, the programming, the systems. Break from it to more bring out your own individual potential. To think about what you're thinking, to think about how it comes from your heart or not. And think about if you move forward on things that are really from your heart, how you're really going to be better off. The people who teach us to think, how are what we do here in this Zoom meeting, what does this visual have to do with 7 generations from now? I propose that we can create a way to refine what we're doing, that we can make sure we're not putting the blinders on just doing a thing, doing something transactionally for the short term, to go with your gut. So as a leader, as somebody who's on a board, I got 2 examples. 2 examples. There's one organization that's the reason I'm sitting on this Zoom. And my current situation is I reach out and I say, I want to do big things with the organization. I've been working with them for 36 years, folks. 36 years. And my current situation is that just this past Wednesday, I went on to their fund development committee and I sat back and I watched and listened them do their thing. And they were ever so ready to close out. And they didn't give a care that I was on the screen. They didn't say hi. They didn't do anything. I have to be honest, I feel they were pretty rude. And that I don't think they were trying to. That they're great people. I love these people. But it's just interesting for them to get so caught up in something under governance, something under a committee, to run a golf outing, get caught up all the things. They didn't even check in and say, Kurt, to say me as a person who's been with them, love them for 36 years, not even a check-in. That tells me we are so perverted in what we're doing in this space. It's ridiculous. We're not even close. And this AI summary chart is the tip of the iceberg. Part of what I do is because as a water skier, one night when I was practicing water skiing at our show site, I picked up my water skis. Now that's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 organization. I got up out of the water with my skis and I looked over at a tree. Now I'm a show skier. I'm a showman. So I'm in a flare, right? Hey, how we doing? Anything we're doing right? And it struck up a conversation with a gentleman. And at the end of the conversation, I said, hey, what about joining our ski club? There was a full minute of awkward silence. I left it as a pregnant pause. I was waiting. I was really thinking this is going to be great because maybe he'll join the club. What this gentleman said is, I thought you had to be somebody. Whew. Of any conversation I've been in 53 years of my life, I'm 53 years old, that was the most instructional conversation I've ever had. Because if I'm doing something in a nonprofit that somebody feels that they can't be in touch with, what is the ski club that I've been in for 39 years doing? The 41-year-old organization, giving people a feeling that what we're doing is not accessible to them. The other thing I did is I did a project in my area at the state level, and I got a lot of flack for how I went about it. And all I did, folks, is I went around with the imagery. This is the analogy, is that I went to them and I said, it's like, you've got the pen. I'm here as the director, but you've got the pen. You're the producer. You're the author of what you and I may do. I'm a licensed field trainer in sales. The training is that it's human nature to just want to jump in, roll up our sleeves and let's just go forward. But sometimes we have to come back and check in and come up with high yielding questions. So, Dean, I challenge you that if you're going to go to the extent of showing this AI summary chart and you're going to put all the things to respond to, that you inspire us to go out and get the questions to say, how do we address all the ranks, the 10 here? How do we go forward that when we're done with this meeting, we go to the next thing at the top of the hour and we know the questions to ask. How are we disengaged? Where is the potential to come into this space so that I can look at Dean, I can look at Susan, Robert, Genevieve, Mary, Mark, Dan, Megan, Frank, Crystal. You're all individuals. When we propagate our nonprofit work and we lose the sense of the individual spirit, we're toast. When we correct that and we get volunteers and people who can come in and we can make that connection, because when I sit on these boards, that's what I feel. There's attrition. And why do people come and go? Because they're not feeling the connection. The biggest thing that we can give a person is the sense of belonging. And to me, if we do more of that, these things would start to have potential to be resolved. But If we jump right in the middle to address any of these 10 rankings without addressing that first, it's going to be an uphill battle and it'll be very much on the short term.
Kurt, you said a lot. I will say that. You said a lot, and several points definitely are more relevant to a larger nonprofit than to a smaller nonprofit. But you said one thing that was very, very powerful, and that is a sense of community, the sense of belonging. And that is something that as the heads of individual nonprofits, we get to create that element. And at the same time, we also get to create that element here with the Charitable Roundtable, that there is room for everyone. That no one has to think that, oh, if I don't have if I haven't started my nonprofit yet, I don't belong, or if I don't work for a nonprofit, or that's an individual mindset. It's not a us mindset, but it is up to us to share the welcome to everyone. And so when what you're saying is so true. All of the 10 elements are they are a compilation of reasons as to why board development and board growth and nonprofits don't grow. And so we had Dean come in for this 3-part series for the purpose of helping to show what's going on when it comes to the nonprofit space, A, B, when it comes to boards, and then the challenges that nonprofits are facing when it comes to boards. And so having our focus on the aspect of the board is what we've done so far. And now having this information gives us another stepping stone as to something else that we could actually go into. And so this is what you shared is definitely true, that, some nonprofits have gotten so big that they lose sight of the smallest thing. But then there are nonprofits that are just starting out and they don't even know what the smallest thing is. But this is a safe space for the big nonprofit to come and the small nonprofit to come so that they can get relevant information so that way we can all succeed. And this be the place where it's nonprofit community for real, not just we're coming together, we're talking a topic, and then we don't have any other engagement with anybody, but the place where we get to create that. And so thank you for sharing that and bringing that to the forefront, because it's true. We are a community of nonprofit people, leaders, people that volunteer, friends of the nonprofit, and this is the place where we should be the voice to let other nonprofits. We all know somebody that's in nonprofit space. Why are they not here? Because we haven't shared with them the importance of what they bring to the table, being part of what we have going on. And so we get to be accountable and responsible for that as well. And so with MS, is there anything else? Because I know Crystal has an announcement. And then it's almost time for this month's Charitable Roundtable to be complete. To anyone before Crystal, or Crystal, go ahead. Frank, you have anything? Okay, go ahead, Crystal.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Before I start my announcements, either do a reaction or put something in the chat to just thank Dean for his 3-part series. The amount of information, Dean, that you have shared has been amazing. Thank you so much for the time that you took to pull it all together and to share that with us. Thank you. It's some great information. So the announcements about the upcoming events. We meet the second Friday of every month. So for July, it will be July 11th, and we will have Dr. Lynn Williams. She is the executive director of the Great Careers Network. She's going to be speaking to us about using LinkedIn for our nonprofits. So mark your calendars. If you're unable to attend, to have somebody from your team join us, we'd love to have you here. And then in August, on August the 8th, I'll be doing an AI topic. And I also am going to just pop um, the link for our YouTube channel. We'd love to have you subscribe to our channel. That's where all of the recordings for our monthly events will be. And follow us on social media, share the posts with your audiences on social media, and do what you can to bring people into this amazing space where we can continue to grow and cultivate this amazing community.
Thank you, Crystal. Dean, I was hoping you would leave that up for a second. If you want to get a hold of Dean, his contact information, the slide was there. Definitely, as I said, he has so much wisdom and so much understanding. His background is with the Better Business Bureau. So, being able to help us, because that credibility means a lot. And then there are in the slides, so if we're going to go back, the information that he shared inside, there were parentheses like Bonterra Tech and all those different places. Those are places that we as nonprofit individuals should have an understanding. Because I know Bonterra, when I got my first donation check from Bonterra, and I was like, who are they? I didn't even know who they were. But someone recommended that they send us some money. But if you're not understanding or even connected with them, they don't have all the charities out there. And so that is all that I have. Dean, again, thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. People that are new with us, please make sure your contact information, your name, your email address, a little about you is in the chat so that way we can follow up with you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Join us next month, July the 11th, for the next charitable roundtable. Also, to those of you who are fathers, this is Father's Day weekend. So happy Father's Day to each of you. Thank you for who you are, what you bring, and what you help create. Because without you, many of us wouldn't be here. So I want to thank you again, everyone. With that, that is it. If anyone has anything else, say so. If not, bye and thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Oh, what did I do? Oh, there it is. I couldn't figure out how to lead the meeting.
You're trapped.
Oh, it's like, where's the little box? It's usually up in the right-hand corner. But then I'm also usually on my cell phone, and now I'm on the computer. So I'm like, I got to remember where it's at.
Frank, are you going to stop the recording?